Many times people want to hit that next level and they don't even have the belief to do it.
Pride, arrogance, ego are the things that will really destroy or demolish your relationship with your Creator and will really set you back in life in so many ways.
And the challenge with this generation is that people have no idea who they are. No one's self-made. We all need each other, right? I don't know everything. That's why I have advisors. That's why I have team members, right? That's why I learned from you, Stephan. When you can attack someone's identity and you can be so crafty in how you plant seeds, you create confusion, and then that confusion leads to chaos.
Hello and welcome to Marketing Speak. I'm your host, Stephan Spencer. It is my pleasure to have Israel Duran with us. Israel is in high demand as a business growth partner, speaker, and trainer where he focuses on empowering his students, clients, and partners in the areas of business, money, and speaking. As an inspirational speaker, Israel has empowered thousands of purpose-driven entrepreneurs all over the world. His vision is to help purpose-driven leaders leverage their expertise and knowledge to create and scale profitable businesses that impact individuals, businesses, and the world. Israel, it's so great to have you on the show.
It's a great blessing to be on here with you.
So let's first of all start with your kind of superhero origin story. How did you end up in the world of speaking and doing, keynotes and all that sort of stuff? You didn't wake up as a kid one day deciding to suddenly start doing keynote speeches, I'm guessing. Like, what's the story here?
Yeah, for me, it started as a young boy, a young child, and I actually had a stuttering problem growing up. It was very bad. I couldn't even say a sentence complete without, stuttering over and over again. And people questioned like why I stuttered, but I knew why I was stuttering. The reason why I was stuttering is because at a young age, at around 3 months, my dad, who's Domingo Duran, he had an experience where he had a massive heart attack at my home. And my mom found him in that condition, unfortunately, because my mom told him to go to the ER to wait he waited 3.5 hours at the ER and they didn't attend him. So for whatever reason, he went back home and that's where he died alone. And I was about 3 months when my dad passed. So growing up, I had a lot of voids. I had a lot of anger. I was introverted and it would display with stuttering, right? And I would be that young guy, the young boy that would hide from in-school presentations. I would run away from the class because I was afraid of using my voice. So it's funny that now that I'm older and now that I've grown, I've dedicated my life to helping leaders and entrepreneurs use their voice to manifest their visions.
Wow. How did you overcome the stuttering?
Not to sound religious or anything like that, but it was really God. For me, I needed clarity with who I was, my identity. Because I didn't have identity. I was trying to find it in my dad, but never had that opportunity. So I sought it in all the wrong places, made all the wrong mistakes. And it wasn't until I kind of came to the end of myself, if I could be fully transparent, and had an encounter with what I believe was God, that things didn't really start to shift for me.
Wow. What was the experience like? Did you have like a vision or some sort of, kind of telepathic message come through or something? Or how did the experience happen?
Yeah, I actually talk about it in my TEDx talk. I actually, at the age of 7, my mom would have repeated the cycle of having somebody very close to her pass away because I died at the age of 7. I drowned in the pool in Dominican Republic in a place called Monte Cristi, Dominican Republic. And I jumped into the water because my sister had lost one of her earrings in the water. So I tried to kind of like jump in and get the earring, right, to be Superman. And I didn't know how to swim and I drowned. And at that moment, my soul came outside of my body. I didn't know anything about God or death or the Bible or Jesus. I didn't know any knowledge in my head. My parents weren't religious. So when I died in that transition, my soul was traveling very fast to what I knew was going to be the throne room of God. It was like I knew I was about to meet God, but I wasn't afraid. Stephan, I felt peace, I felt love, I felt protected, I felt warmth, like a heat, but not like a bad heat. And I was very calm. And then all of a sudden, I'm back into my body. A man had jumped in, he pulls me out of the water. I'm outside of this water trying to gasp for air, like I'm trying to breathe and like, come back to consciousness, if you will. And then when I turn around and see who it was to try to like say thank you to the guy, there was no one to be found. And it was at that moment that I understood that, okay, I know I shouldn't be here. Like someone just protected me to bring me back. But it bothered me because I knew I was alive for a purpose, but I didn't know why. I didn't know why. And through that experience, that's where it's going to sound crazy, but I felt like God would speak and I would hear him. And then I felt like when I would speak, he would hear me. And the rest is history.
Amazing. And does that still happen now?
Oh, yes. All the time.
Okay. That's cool.
All the time. Yes.
You want to know a secret? Happens to me too. That's why you're on this show, because I ask God about everything, and I get lots of pitches. Your pitch came in, and I got a yes for you. Most are a no.
Well, I'm glad. It's an honor to be on here with you. And you said to me before the show, hey, we're going to go with the intuition. I said, let's do it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Amazing. So how do you apply this superpower, this incredible gift, which, by the way, we all have? We're all psychic. We're all intuitive. We're all able to commune and communicate with God. There is no separation. How do you apply that to business? How do you apply that to marketing? How do you apply that to speaking?
That's a great question. The 4 things that I wanted as a child, which I didn't have, are the 4 things that I value as an adult and what our clients, our partners, our students really benefit from. And those 4 things are: number 1, identity; number 2, purpose. And purpose can change, by the way. A lot of people say, you got to find your purpose. Yeah, you have to find your purpose. But depending on what season you're in, your purpose may change. Where a lot of people get it wrong is that they get their purpose confused with their identity. So they'll be doing something, a purpose, for 20 years, and then God calls them to transition, but then they don't want to transition because their identity was wrapped into what they did, and then they fall into depression and suicidal moments, and I've experienced that as well. But there's a clear distinction that I want to make there. Identity is very different than purpose.
Identity is about ego, and purpose is about your higher self and your true self, right?
100%. And the way I teach purpose is connected to people. What I didn't understand when God gave me a second opportunity to live is that the reason why he kept me alive was not for me, but it was for people that I was called to serve with my life and my gift. Right. And that leads me to number 3, because the third thing I wanted from my dad was vision. I wanted to know what I was supposed to accomplish and how I was going to do it. But the other thing that you get out of vision, which is what we teach, is you get your voice from your vision. And you get your vision from the voids that you see in the marketplace. So we help people find their vision, which that leads them to find their voice. And then number 4 is I wanted a custom plan. I didn't want to just, try anything. I wanted something custom that was tailor-made for me, because a custom suit, a custom plan always fits better than one off the rack. So those are the 4 things that we implement and impart into the people we work with through our main brand called The Service of Speaking.
So what would be an example of kind of like a extreme makeover, before and after, of somebody that came in with maybe a mediocre talk, signature speech, and then it was incredible after the revamp?
Well, just to give you a quick story to kind of explain a little bit more deeper the whole ecosystem of what we do, because speaking is just part of it's like a vehicle to help people get to where they want to be, but we do so much more. I want to talk about what I call the beach of abundance for a second. And this is, a lot of people you're going to love this. The beach of the abundance, you're in Israel right now. So are you by the water or by a body of water?
Well, the Mediterranean is about, 15-minute drive.
Okay, cool. So I'm in Connecticut, so I got to drive like an hour to get to some water. But let's imagine for a second, if there's this ocean, you got this huge ocean, and we're going to call this ocean the ocean of abundance. And the ocean represents, the water represents more abundance, more opportunity, more wealth, more sales, everything that you desire. And then approximately about 100 feet from the ocean, we have a table. Okay. And there's some nice sand in between, the most beautiful sand you've ever seen. But there's a nice table, nice sturdy table. And on this table, we have different size containers. We have small containers. We have some medium-sized containers. We have some really, really big containers and in-between type containers. But Stephan, all these containers, they all have one thing in common. They all have a hole inside of them that is proportionate or equivalent to the size of the container. So if it's a small container, it has a small hole. If it's a big container, it has a big hole, and so on and so forth. Okay? Mm-hmm. Now let's imagine on the side of the table, there's this bucket that represents what you can keep. And in this bucket, there's infinite opportunity, infinite capacity. You can literally store the whole ocean inside of this bucket and more, okay? Now let's imagine if somebody, and this is, by the way, I'm describing people, entrepreneurs, business owners, leaders that desire to grow. Desire to grow. That's what I'm describing here. People are going to love this. Let's say somebody grabs a container like this container, and they go from the table and they walk 100 feet to the ocean, and then they use their container to pick up the water, and then they walk back to the table. And when they're about to transfer the water that they thought was in the container into the bucket, what do they realize, Stephan?
Yeah, it's empty.
It's empty because of the hole.
Yeah.
But this is what most people do. Well, this container doesn't work, and they throw the container, then they go back to the table and they try to find the best shiny table. What's the next best shiny thing? Is it AI? Is it this? Is it that? Let me find the best thing. And then they grab the next container, Stephan. Let's say it's a little bit bigger. And they walk down to the beach and they do the same thing. They get out of the water. They walk back up to the table. They're about to then transfer the water that they thought that was in the container back into the bucket. And what do they realize? There's no water.
Yeah.
Because there's a hole. So we've been sold a narrative in this online space that you just need more. Yes, but the most important thing is identifying what I call the leak in the business. So there's this principle I call it the law of the leak. And what it teaches, Stephan, is that every business has at least one leak, sometimes two or three, but many times it's one. That's like the linchpin. Like there's other things that can be fixed, but if they identify this one thing, if they identify that linchpin and they remove it, it's like exponential growth happens, right? And for some, that could be branding. For some, that could be marketing. For some, that could be sales. For some, that could be operations. But for many, Stephan, it's mindset and belief. Many times people want to hit that next level and they don't even have the belief to do it. So one of the greatest things that we do for the people we serve is that we give them that belief that they can before they can. Because you asked the question, well, give me an example of somebody that was with, before and then after, like what was their transformation like? The transformation is that they're able to identify what their leak is, what their linchpin is, and identify that thing where then they're able to capture more opportunity, more abundance, and more growth.
Yeah. I think there's probably one more thing to add maybe to your model, perhaps, and that might be the blind spot. Because if somebody is not aware that they have a blind spot, then they're not able to work on it until that is made aware to them. But leaks, I mean, you could probably figure out that your branding sucks. You could probably figure out a number of leaks and you don't have to hire an expert to do an audit. But the blind spots, you absolutely would need to have somebody come in who is an expert or who doesn't have those same blind spots in order to point them out to you.
100%. I love what you shared because you're 100% correct. Those leaks are typically 90% of the time are blind spots. Because if typically, right, nobody wants to leak, right? Nobody wants to miss out. But sometimes we can't see the label when we're in the jar when we can't see the label when we're in the jar, as they say, right?
Yeah.
We all have blind spots. So there's also a humility factor, Stephan. There's pride that needs to be let go of for us to get to that next level. And you know, we hear it all the time. Humility comes before growth, but pride comes before a fall.
That's a really important point. I think from a spiritual standpoint, pride, arrogance, ego are the things that will really destroy or demolish your relationship with your Creator, and if and will really set you back in life in so many ways. If you are humble, like Moses was incredibly humble. The humble one was how he was referred to. For the amount of with the ability and the power and the wisdom and the wealth and everything that he had at his disposal, and he was incredibly humble. So if we can aspire to be more humble in everything that we do, including our marketing, it will lead to incredible riches. That's my belief.
100%. And I concur with that, because sabotage is the number one thing that is rooted in pride. Sometimes people don't even know that they have, like, it's one thing for people to like know and continue to be in arrogance, but sometimes even the people that are the bottleneck, or they may have a leak or a blind spot, they don't even know that they have it. So it takes that self-awareness of saying, you know what? I don't know what I don't know. And it's okay to seek for help. Like, I feel like we live in a world, Stephan, where a lot of people that are wise, like the people that are successful, they get this. The people that have like think they reached the level of success, but really haven't reached their maximum potential, they'll get stuck and say, I'll figure it out on my own. I got to this point, I'm self-made. I did everything. That's very dangerous talk, in my opinion, because in my opinion, no one's self-made.
Right.
No one's self-made. We all need each other, right? I don't know everything. That's why I have advisors. That's why I have team members, right? That's why I learned from you, Stephan, right? We can learn from each other. And I feel like that's the thing that's been missing in the TikTok age. Like 50 years ago, some of the things that I see online now would never have, like, but when I talk to my mom, or I talk to my uncles and people that I know, like, they're telling me the stuff that you guys are going through now in this age, 50, even 25 years ago would be like absurd. You know what I mean? But now today we see it as a status quo. So it's like humility and self-awareness are virtues that we cannot afford to go without.
Yeah. So give me an example of something that's in this TikTok age, and perhaps with the influencers that you typically see on TikTok and Instagram, that is not in integrity or not in alignment with how things were 50 years ago, or how things should be, or what would bring about the most benevolent outcome.
Well, I'll tell you right now, as a man thinketh, so is he. And the challenge with this generation is that people have no idea who they are. It goes back to identity. I feel like when you can attack someone's identity and you can be so crafty in how you plant seeds, you create confusion, and then that confusion leads to chaos. And that's what I've seen on TikTok. One day, because we do a lot of online stuff, and one day I got comfortable, Stephan, and I opened up TikTok one day and I saw a video of like children watching it, like 12 to 14-year-old children, of something that's I'm not even going to share it on the show. It's really bad. And I was like, what is this right now? And then God had that moment again when God speaks to us, and he was like, so are you going to stay quiet? And I said, no, I'm not going to stay quiet. I'm going to put my part. I'm going to do my piece. And he says, okay, I need you to be consistent. And then God gave me a download called the 4 C's of content creation. And I made a decision from that moment that I was going to be consistent. That's number 1. Number 2, have conviction with what I'm talking about, because people can notice when you have conviction or you're just a talking head. And then number 3, have charity, which is one of my favorite words. Charity has to do with representing love, not only towards God, but towards your fellow man. Like, we need to love each other, guys. We got to be kind to one another. Like, and really showing that through the content. And then number 4, which is also one of my favorite words, is compassion. Right? So that's what happened with me one day. And it was just, it kind of brought me to my knees because I saw the damage that was being done out there. And because I was okay, right? And I was comfortable with ads and all the other stuff that we know how to do, God said, I need you on the front lines of creating content. But I want you to create content again with consistency, with conviction, with charity and compassion.
So what's an example of a piece of content you recently produced or published that exemplifies this?
So one of the things I love to teach on is, you're in Israel, Jesus of Nazareth. And Jesus said these words in Mark 4. He says, well, it talks about a story. It talks about how he saw the multitude. They were like sheep without a shepherd. So he saw a group of people. He saw a multitude of people, but they didn't have someone to lead them. So what does it say? It says that he was moved by compassion. Is that word compassion? And he began to teach them many things. So one of the things I love to do in my content is I love to teach. Like I love to use metaphors. I love to use parables. I love to actually teach people principles, like laws, that once they learn the laws, they can implement and integrate it into their business and life, and their quality of their business and life can improve. So that's the content that I love to do. I run a lot of events as well. We do a lot of like in-person and online events where we're literally teaching the masses. And for those of you listening in that you feel like you see a certain void in the marketplace, like you see something missing in the marketplace, that may be part of what your vision is to fill that void with your voice. And when you can create content and create marketing around that, it's going to separate you from everybody else out there. Because most people are just creating content to make money, and to sell products and services. But when you create content with the 4 C's that I just mentioned, you're really selling a vision, which is great. It's the greatest thing that you can do because it will pull everybody else that's just trying to sell products and services, if that makes sense.
Right. And so if I'll give an example that just came in my on my radar today. It was a short or a reel. I think it was on YouTube. Yeah, it was on YouTube. So it was a short of Brian Tracy from decades ago talking about how to activate this abundance and insight. And he talked about having solitude for 30 to 60 minutes a day and just be patient and allow the still small voice to come in. And of course, there are no coincidences. Nothing is random in this reality that we're experiencing. I had just given this exact advice to a client of mine on a coaching call yesterday. And of course, when we're coaching others, that same advice is meant for us as well. So I was coaching him, spend time, like 30 to 60 minutes. Exactly. That's what I was telling him to do every day, journaling and talking to God, listening to God, and writing what he receives. And there it was in this random short I wasn't looking for, and wasn't like, it just came out of nowhere to reinforce this principle that I had shared yesterday. And of course, I forwarded that YouTube short to my client. And we can have so much impact on people, being that that whisper, that still small voice that works through us, if we have the courage to just get in front of the video, in front of the camera, and start talking, and not worry about how do we look and how am I positioned, and all the self-doubt. We just do it, and this is really a pivotal point for humanity, where we got to step up. Not just because AI is going to put half of jobs out, like put half of the population out of business, but because this is the time, this is the the coming of the Messiah time where we have to step up. So, yeah, I'd love to hear another example of let's say short form video piece that maybe either you produced or clients produced that had an impact and had a message that got people, I don't know, looking introspectively or doing things differently.
Yeah, one of the greatest posts that anyone can do here that can implement the 4 C's that I mentioned is doing a reaction post with something that moved you. Like finding something that's already gone viral and then setting up a frame where you're just looking at the video. You may say something up front or you may say something at the end of it, but you react to that video. Because here's the reality. In marketing, we leverage the data that's already working and we ride that wave, right? You could try to reinvent the wheel, but why would you do that? If you want to save time and have something go viral, find something that's already gone viral that aligns to your brand and do a reaction video with that. And those pieces of content work very well. People want to go on my YouTube, they could see some examples. We have a few videos that have gone viral and it works. Okay. So that's a practical example that anyone can use to add to their marketing arsenal.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So let's talk kind of bigger picture here about not just videos or particular campaigns, but really just how to run a business in these wild, unpredictable times that we're living in now. And I'm thinking in particular, how do we partner with God and do this in a way that builds a future-proof business and helps us ride this wave instead of get drowned by it?
I love it. Our main thing when we work with entrepreneurs and business owners is helping them to grow online. Because you remember about 5 years ago when COVID happened, where everything shut down, right? It was really bad. Like a lot of people lost their businesses. A lot of people were afraid. A lot of people lost everything. It was almost like an '08 flash back. But we actually grew during COVID because God had positioned us beforehand. And the next wave that's coming, in my personal opinion, Stephan, is we need to build our own platform. Gone are the days of depending on the media, on secular media, to be direct. Gone are the days of just depending on others to grow your business. Referral partnerships, connections, all of that's always going to happen. But it's important for you to build your own following, your own platform. You stepping into that is really what's going to, number one, make you marketable to even work with others, right? I'm sure, Stephan, you have a lot of requests like you shared because you have your own platform, number one. And number two, it's going to be the most predictable, sustainable client acquisition system for you when you have your own platform. So really taking the time to learn how to grow a business online and identifying what your leaks are in that process would be the number one thing that God is really ministering to me in this season, and also calling me to share that with others, right? You can't just say, you know what, the online space is not for me. I'm just going to depend on brick and mortar. I'm just going to depend on referrals. If you're called to make an impact, a true impact, you're going to need resources to do so. You can't, if you want to reach millions of people, you're probably going to need millions of dollars to make that happen. And if you think you're going to do it without the online space, well, best of success. It's going to be much more easier for you to leverage the online space and learning how to do it.
Well, let's dive into that a bit more because let's say that you build a platform on Facebook or on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube. Isn't that building a house on rented land? Like, can't they just deplatform you in an instant if they don't like what you're posting?
100%. I was just speaking to a known actor the other day. I was at his house doing what we call an impact day, and he was deplatformed on Facebook or lost over 1 million followers. So what we teach, Stephan, and it's in alignment to you, is building your own platform, building your own database. Now, that may look like you literally having an email database and a membership that you control. It may look like you have a podcast, like what Stephan teaches, helping you get your podcast up and running at the highest level. It may look like having both, right? But it's not only depending on the big box retail type platforms. It's important to have a presence on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, depending on where your demographic is. But it's super more important to have your own database that you control, that's under your management. So whether they choose to deplatform you or not, you still have your intellectual property and you still have those assets.
Yeah. So how do you leverage content that you would normally use for, let's say, Instagram as Reels or YouTube as Shorts, and use that on your own platform, perhaps as content for email newsletters or content for a membership site or for podcasts or what have you? How would you use that in novel ways that would perhaps be non-intuitive or non-traditional?
Well, we want to leverage the platforms as well. So it's not like we're going to completely be disconnected from the mainstream, because that's where the people are. So you have to go fishing there, if you will. You have to, spread your net there. You have to spread your wisdom there. So that's guaranteed. Like we have a Facebook group of about 360K members currently. We have other platforms as well. We get a lot of traction in our Facebook group, but I have a lot of those people in that group. I also have their emails. So if I want to send a video or a piece of content or maybe even this podcast, I could just do a email blast and get that to them independent from whatever social media platform they found me through, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So having simple technology and systems in place is one of the most important things that I would say you need to focus on, rather than like the videos, because when you have the tech and the systems in place that you control, again, it just gives you the freedom and the ability to scale and grow without anyone trying to control your growth.
Yeah.
And even if they do dismiss you, even if they do, blacklist you, you'll still have that as a backup and as a way that you can fortify it and continue to build your business and presence.
Right. And the old adage, which I don't like the way it's worded, but the devil's in the details. I'd like to say instead that God is in the details. So when you look at these little details that can be overlooked, for example, when you create a Facebook group, you could set it up so that you have to be invited or you have to be approved to enter. And then there has to be questions answered in order to do that. And one of those questions can be, provide your email address. Is that how you got all those group members to be on your email list as well?
So when it comes to Facebook, yes, we do have a system set where we have questions, and when people put in their email, that email will then trigger into our CRM, where then we can control that contact and then reach out to them and nurture that relationship. So yes, you always want to leverage systems, again, that you can benefit from the actual mainstream platform, but then you're also, nurturing those relationships off of the platform as well.
Yeah, very important. And what CRM are you using? Is it Go High Level or something else?
We have a SaaS that we run. It's called leadsandsales.io. That's white labeled through, or the back end is Go High Level. We also used to use HubSpot a lot, but those are the two that we've primarily used.
Gotcha. Okay. So if we go back to this idea of like God in the details and how we can kind of set ourselves up for success, or if we miss these details, for failure, what would be a few other things that pop to mind in terms of making sure that those I's are dotted and the T's are crossed?
Well, I would say apart from all of that, right, apart from the social media, here's another angle to look at that can really be exponential growth for the right person, is looking at what we call the law of connection or the law of pairing, right? When you study history, people call it, in today's age, we have a different name for it. But when you look at history and you study how these different companies grew, most of the companies grew, like I'm thinking about a specific company called Wrigley's Gum, right? When you look at that company back in the 1900s, there was a quick story here. There was one day Wrigley who was having challenges with his marketing. His business was stuck, right? And then one day at a marketing meeting, his sales team decided to show up late. So he's looking at the time. He's like, okay, where's my staff? Where are they? An hour and a half passes. They come in. And remember, there's no cars at the time. There's like, it's a train system. And that's what it was. There wasn't any other forms of transportation other than the train depot. So they came in and they were like, look, boss, we're not at fault. Like we were at the train depot and there was a blob of people because there was a delay and then we had to wait 30 minutes. And then when we waited 30 minutes, our transfer took another hour. And there was a bunch of people there at the train depot. They were all upset and they were all looking for something to do. And the boss was angry at first because they were late, but then he turned his anger and he was intrigued and it turned into, wait a second, tell me that again? Because this boss was having challenges selling his product. But then when they told him about this group of people that are waiting at the train depot and they had nothing to do, they were trying to find something to do. What he did is he decided to take a year off and study the train systems. So he took a year off, studied the train systems, learned all the routes, ins and outs, and then he got himself a meeting with the executives. And he sat down with the executives and said, look, you have a problem. You have these delays every single day, and you have all your customers, a blob of people, and they're waiting and they have nothing to do. We have a solution. We have Wrigley's Gum. And the executives, to his surprise, were like, dude, you're like an answered prayer. We've been praying and we've been asking, like, we need ideas because we're not able to solve this delay problem yet. We need ideas to keep our customers busy and happy and doing something collectively. And then that was where Wrigley's Gum came into partnership with this train depot and their businesses skyrocketed. This is what we call the law of connection. Today, people call it joint ventures, partnerships. But why am I talking about this? Because when we look at the online space, like social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, those are known brands. But in every market, there's already delivery systems out there of people that have your audience or the ear of your customer, that if you can partner with them or create some type of joint venture, it could literally be the move that can take you to the next level. And that's called the law of connection.
So what's an example of that kind of connection that you forged? What's your train depot or train company example in your life?
I have several of them. Some of them are on the private side and some of them are on the public side, to be fully transparent.
Yeah.
But one of the ones I can talk about is we have a program that we work with. It's called Prime Profit Partnership, where I actually only work with 12 entrepreneurs a year. And there's a reason why I choose the number 12. And there's a neat reason why it's called Prime, by the way. I get the name from Joseph when he was converted into the prime minister of Egypt, as you're familiar, in the land of Israel, or in the land of Egypt, but which is close by to Israel. So that program I built because most people want to grow being Batman. They want to be like number one. But I've been able to find a model where we grow pretty well being Robin, the number two in place. So we have partnerships in place where I will actually go into a business, audit their business, see where the leaks are, see where the holes are, and seek to create a partnership where we plug in the holes, but simultaneously we also allow them to capture more. And then we partner, or we have a delivery system partnership where we both grow. And those have been working very, very well.
Cool. So what would be a good tip for a next action for our listener or viewer to start forging those kinds of partnerships?
The first thing you want to look at is understanding that it's not about creating a new system. It's about identifying that there's already delivery systems out there that already have the ear of your audience, right? So, but it's not just about what you can get. It's about creating synergy and really looking at, okay, what's going to be of value to the person that has the connection? Like the example that I gave. This gentleman, he led with the value of the train depot. You guys have this problem. You guys have this leak. It needs to be filled. The train depot didn't see it as a pitch or a sales pitch. They saw it as an answered prayer. So really looking at what are those connections that can be positioned on both sides as an answered prayer, that's where the for lack of a better phrase, that's where the true magic happens. At least that's what I've seen in my life. And I continue to see it. Mm-hmm. So really being intentional about praying or thinking through that is really the first step and the last step. You're thinking about the end from the beginning, but it's really giving you the focus on those partnerships or relationships that you should be focused on.
Right. And the most important partnership, to go back to something we talked about earlier in the conversation, is partnering with God. So everything that you do is done with God, and nothing can exist without him. So if you're going to bring that into your conscious awareness, then you're going to be co-creating and co-marketing with the creator of all that is, and there's no better partner. So I remember interviewing.
I love this, man. I really just want to say this. I really enjoy this connection, this call, because I get on several different, some big platforms, and it's always refreshing to see someone that's unashamed, clarity, telling people the truth, and you're 100% right, Stephan. God is my CEO. He's my partner. He's my number one.
Yeah.
And people say, what's your secret? Relationship. That's it.
Yeah. And I remember hearing this concept first from Curtis Thomas, who I interviewed on my other podcast, Get Yourself Optimized. And, it was an episode about breath work. He's an expert in that area, but he said this, such profound statement that he is business partners with God. And I asked him, how did you come up with that? How did that come to your consciousness? And he said, well, my former partner, my former business partner, he went off and did his own thing. We parted ways amicably. And he was really going gangbusters with his new business. And I asked him what his secret was. And he said, God's my business partner. I'm like, how do you do that? I want to do that too. And so then when I heard it from Curtis, I'm like, I want to do that too. And I asked God, and God said yes. It's like you don't assume that he's going to be your business partner, but you have to ask. And really everything is his anyways. It's not like you're tithing 10%. The whole thing is his, and you're allocating 10% of his money, which you're a steward of, to whatever charities, and if you're a good steward, then you get more.
That's it. I call it the steward of success. We have this whole identity frame that we show people, and the steward of success teaches people that we don't own anything. We just manage it. We're managers. We're stewards.
Yeah.
And it's all about how can we manage resources for the next generation. I tell people this too, Stephan. People get upset at me sometimes when I say this, but I'm like, God has a problem. And people are like, what do you mean God has a problem? God doesn't have any problems. He's perfect. And I'm like, I'm not saying that God's not perfect on mission. Of course, I'm not taking that from him. But God does have a problem. And they're like, well, what's God's problem, right? And I'm like, well, God's problem is that he owns every cattle on every hill. All the gold and silver is his. He owns everything. But here's his problem. He has few managers. He's looking for people that he can entrust to steward his wealth, and there's few of them. So what does he have to do? He has to give it to the wicked, because the wicked understand management. So that's why the word says the wealth of the sinner is stored for the righteous. But how do you transfer it? There's a transferring that happens, and that's through what we're talking about. It's through becoming a steward. It's through looking at the leaks. It's through being faithful with the little so he can bless you with much. That's what the beach of abundance teaches, by the way. Before you can get more, we first have to also be faithful. We have to plug in those leaks. And if we're not willing to do the hard work or hire the right help, we're going to be stuck, like Chuck in a pickup truck, like people say.
Yeah. So how did you end up white labeling Go High Level and making that your one of your offerings. Like everything happens miraculously. So I'm guessing there's a story there that some sort of synchronicity or chance occurrence or what some would deem as luck, but we know it's all God.
Well, a lot of the people that we serve and we empower, Stephan, are people that are honestly in between 40 and like 80 years of age,
Mm-hmm.
right? And one of the pain points that, not pain points, but one of the things that they don't want to really waste their time on is like understanding all the technology and systems and all this stuff. So we decided to partner with Go High Level to build out a SaaS because one of the things that we do is we show people how to get their systems in place. So that's one of the assets that our agency has in place to help people build in record time. And that was the reason why. It was to really serve our audience and the pain points that they were going through in a more effective and more efficient way.
Yeah. And what's the name of that you're offering?
Yeah, our SaaS is called leadsandsales.io.
Yeah.
Because we're building a system to generate leads and then convert them into sales.
Yeah, great. Well, we'll include that in the show notes. Let's go back to this, back to your origin story here, and I know we're getting close to time, so I'm cognizant of that, but I'm really curious about the miraculous occurrence here with you stopped stuttering, and can you just describe the day and how was it on the day that you drowned and came back that you stopped stuttering, or was it a different day? Or help my listener understand a bit more about this miraculous turn of events for you.
Yeah, it happened in my knowledge growing, like my identity growing, and knowing who I was. In me coming out of that cocoon or that lack of knowledge or that darkness or that ignorance, and me getting that understanding, that's where it started to shed off of me. That's how best I could describe it. So it wasn't kind of like this day it happened. It was kind of like a journey, if you will, and a discovery of me realizing who I am, that I am not what I do, but I am who God says I am, right? Like if someone creates something, the creation can't tell the creator who it is. The creator tells the creation what it is and what the purpose and identity is. So that was more of that.
Interesting. This this interesting thing that bit of seemingly trivia that I learned, I don't know, a couple years ago from Roger Love, who I interviewed, like 3 or 4 years ago. He's a voice coach to the stars, to the biggest pop stars in the world. And he said, you can't stutter if you have a stutter while you're singing. So somebody who is someone with a big stutter will have no problem singing a song without stuttering at all. And so he studied, why is that occurring? And how does somebody stop stuttering if they're not singing? And the answer he came up with was, you just let everything out that you have to say in one long stream of air. Every time you stop to to just not keep breathing out. So it's not even about breathing. It's about the airflow. So if he would describe it as, imagine this yellow stream of airflow coming out of your mouth. You don't want to interrupt that. You don't want to staccato that at all, because then the stutter will start. And I just thought, wow, that's fascinating. Anyway, so I really appreciate you sharing all this from your heart and all this personal experience and the tragedy and the triumph and all that. And it's not a typical marketing episode. I'm going a little off script here, but that's how I was led to do this episode. And just in these last couple minutes that we have left, I'm curious to hear what you want to share in terms of where you think things are headed, or how you feel about the future. It's a wild time here in terms of, politics and AI and global threats and power structures and there are lots of things going on that might make people afraid or want to kind of entrench themselves and stop investing in marketing and maybe I don't know, buy a couple years worth of food.
I believe, Stephan, that the best investment is in people. That's why I've dedicated my life to build our vision, a brand called The Service of Speaking, where our focus is to raise up leaders in every sphere of influence, whether they're called to business, media, education, arts and entertainment, family, faith and spirituality, and government and politics. And my goal is to raise up these leaders so they can shift industries, create movements, and provide provision for their calling. And I do it through helping them grow online and growing their enterprises. And that's what I've been focused on, because there needs to be an army that's raised up. And that's what I believe God is doing right now. He's raising up people that are like David, people that are unknown, the unknowns. And he's preparing them so they can be the standard against the evil that's happening. And it's more of a calling. It's more of a vision where you feel like there's something that you have to share. Maybe it's an area of expertise that you've been stewarding for the last 10, 20, 30 years, and you're called to release that book, create that event, launch that course, launch that nonprofit, launch that business, but you're just stuck or you just don't know how to start or how to get it to the next level. Those are the people that I'm looking for. I have a group of investors that back me. I have a group of known international celebrities that back me as well. And we're really building this movement that's going to reach the masses. And that's what I'm focused on now, because that's what God has pretty much showed me with clarity on what to focus on. And that's the people that surround that vision. Mm-hmm. And it's been very rewarding thus far.
Yeah. Yeah, you were talking earlier about one of your frameworks. Part of this one framework is belief. And one thing that I was guided to and have used quite a lot is the willing suspension of disbelief. So kind of, I don't know, what's the word? Like a different take on belief. When you suspend disbelief, that's a lot easier for some people to take on, especially the skeptics. It's like, okay, I guess I can suspend disbelief. But if they have to believe something, then you have to get through their critical faculty and all their, the logical executive center in their brain. But if they just temporarily shut off the disbelief, then that cracks the door open for change to happen.
I 100% agree with you. This is why one of the things we primarily teach, and let's say I was on my own event, we would have started with 60 seconds of what complete strangers have to say about working with us or learning from us. And what that video does is shows real people that are crying emotionally, talking about the breakthroughs they experienced. So it's literally suspends disbelief of what you're saying. So then they can be open to hear. And then that's when the belief is cultivated.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. All right. Great. Well, thank you so much, Israel, for sharing from your heart and soul. And if our listener, our viewer wants to work with you, maybe wants to use your platform and get training and all that other stuff, where do we send them?
Yeah, so I want to do something especially special for you, Stephan, because you've been a joy here with your transparency. And there's this gift that we typically charge money for, but I'm not going to charge anybody for this. All you got to do is go. There's two gifts I'm going to give you. Gift your audience. Number one, if you find me on Instagram and you just type in my name, Israel Duran, you'll find my Instagram. If you direct message me the word marketing speak, all one word, by the way, we're gonna waive the cost, and I'm gonna gift you my online business blueprint. It's gonna walk you through a simple process and very easy that you can use to identify where your potential leak is or where your hole is, so you can plug that in, so you can then hit your growth. Okay. But then simultaneously, most likely you're going to have a question going through the guide or the blueprint, and I may not be there. But what I want to do is I want to open up an opportunity for those of you that may have questions going through the guide for you to speak to me or a member of my team on those questions and how we can potentially help you create a custom blueprint. Because the guide that I create, it's very in-depth, very simple, but it's based on principles. When typically people speak to us, we're able to go more like specific, because then we understand what their unique situation is. So we're going to give them that guide, but make sure that DM us the word marketing speak, all one word, to avoid paying the front end cost. Okay. And that's a gift if you just go to our Instagram.
Awesome. Well, thank you. That's very kind. And, all this stuff that we've been talking about, it'll be in the show notes of the episode. So be sure to check that out as well. And thank you again.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you, listener. Now get out there and make the world a better place. We'll catch you on the next episode. In the meantime, have a fantastic week. I'm your host, Stephan Spencer, signing off.